Imagine being the favorite son, loved deeply by your father, envied by your brothers, but carrying within you a secret dream that would change everything. This is the story of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, whose life journey takes him from the darkness of a lonely pit to the dazzling halls of power. A story so powerful, the Quran calls it the most beautiful of stories. But what was this dream? And why did it cause so much jealousy? That his own brothers would betray him in the cruelest way. Before Yusuf could reach his destiny, he would face unimaginable trials. Trials that would test his faith, his patience, and his very soul. And it all began with a vision, a dream that nobody else understood. What was this dream? And why did it set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of history? Stay with me, and you'll discover a story of betrayal, hope, and a divine plan far greater than anyone could imagine. Let's begin at the beginning, with young Yusuf's extraordinary dream. Yusuf was still a boy, young, innocent, and full of light. He lived in the blessed house of Jacob, peace be upon him, a prophet of Allah and his father. Among 12 brothers, Yusuf was the one his father loved most, not out of favoritism, but because Yusuf had a special soul. He was pure, he was destined, and one night he had a dream that would mark the beginning of the greatest transformation of his life. He ran to his father, filled with wonder, and he said, "Oh my father, indeed I saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrating to me." This wasn't just a child's imagination. Jacob knew this was a sign, a vision, a message from the Almighty. Jacob felt both awe and fear, because the boy's dream wasn't just about honor. It meant something deeper, that Yusuf would be tested, that his journey would be unlike any other. And so he told him, "Oh my son, do not relate your vision to your brothers, or they will plan against you a plot. Surely Satan is an enemy to man." And just like that, the seed of Yusuf's journey was planted. A secret dream, a divine plan, and the first shadow of jealousy was beginning to grow in the hearts of his brothers. They didn't know about the dream, but they felt something in Yusuf that made them burn with envy. They couldn't stand how close he was to their father. They couldn't stand his light, his peace, his purity. And soon, that jealousy would turn into betrayal. But not just any betrayal, one that would change everything. The brothers had had enough. They could no longer hide the envy they felt. In their eyes, Yusuf had taken their father's love. And that love, that favor, had to be destroyed. They whispered in the shadows, plotting, planning, and then they said something shocking. "Kill Yusuf, or cast him out into some land. Then the attention of our father will be only ours." They didn't just feel jealousy. They were ready to act on it. But one of them spoke with hesitation. He said, "Do not kill Yusuf. Rather, throw him into the bottom of a well. Perhaps a caravan will pick him up, if you must do something." And so the plan was set. They went to their father with false sincerity. They said, "Oh, our father, why do you not trust us with Yusuf? Send him with us tomorrow so he may play and enjoy himself. Surely we will protect him." Jacob felt uneasy, but reluctantly he agreed. And so the brothers took Yusuf away, not for joy, but for betrayal. When they reached the wilderness, they looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then they grabbed him. They stripped away his shirt, and they dragged him to the edge of a dark, dry well. Yusuf cried out. He begged them to stop, but they did not listen. They threw him into the pit. His hands scraped against the stone. His body dropped into the cold. Alone, injured, scared. He was just a boy. Above him, silence. No voices, no warmth, no one. Only the voice of Allah remained with him. And soon a caravan would pass by, and his story would begin again. In the stillness of night, a caravan approached. travelers seeking water. They sent their water drawer to the well. He lowered his bucket, and what he pulled out shocked him. A child, covered in dust, eyes wide, bruised but alive. He shouted to the others, "Good news, there's a boy here." But they didn't see him as a boy. They saw him as prophet. They quickly hid him like a precious good. And the next time they entered Egypt, they sold him for a few coins, traded like nothing more than an object, a soul sold into slavery. But Yusuf wasn't lost. He wasn't forgotten. Allah was still with him, guiding him, preparing him. And in Egypt, a powerful man would take notice. The chief minister. He saw Yusuf, not just his face, but something in his presence, something special. He brought him home, and he told his wife, "Take good care of him. He may be useful to us, or we may adopt him as a son." And so, Yusuf entered a new life, a life of servants and secrets, a life of silence and stares. But even here, his light could not be hidden, because Allah had a plan, and Yusuf's story was only just beginning. Yusuf grew into a young man, strong, wise, and strikingly handsome. He lived under the roof of Egypt's powerful minister, and the minister's wife, Zuleika, watched him closely. Day after day, she noticed his beauty, his grace, his silence, and slowly her admiration became desire. She began to plot, not for power, but for him. One day, when the house was empty, she closed the doors, locked them, and called him. She said, "Come to me." Yusuf froze. He was just a servant, alone, trapped, and in front of him stood a woman of wealth, status, and power. But Yusuf was not moved by lust. He was moved by Allah. He turned away and said, "I seek the protection of Allah. He is my master and has treated me well. Surely the wrongdoers never succeed." He ran, and she chased him, and as he reached the door, she tore his shirt from behind. At that moment the door opened, and her husband stood there. Caught, Zuleika quickly changed the story. She blamed Yusuf. She accused him of betrayal. But a witness from her own family revealed the truth. If his shirt is torn from the front, she is telling the truth. But if it is torn from the back, then she is lying and he is truthful. And the shirt, torn from the back, Yusuf was innocent. But the scandal would not disappear. Rumors began to spread in the city. Women whispered. They mocked Zuleika. So she invited them all, gave each one a knife, and told Yusuf to enter. When they saw him, they gasped, and they cut their hands. They said, "This is no human being, this is a noble angel." And still, Yusuf resisted. Even when threatened with prison, he chose it. He said, "O Allah, prison is more beloved to me than what they call me to." And so, he was locked away, but his honor remained untouched, because Yusuf feared Allah more than the world, and through that fear, he found his true strength. The prison walls were cold, the doors locked, the chains heavy, but inside the heart of Yusuf, there was peace. He had been wrongfully imprisoned, betrayed again, but he was never truly alone, because Allah was with him, and soon, his gift would return. One day, two young men entered the prison with him. They came from different paths, but shared one thing, a troubled dream. Each of them had seen something strange in their sleep, and both believed Yusuf could help. They said, "Tell us what these dreams mean. We see that you are among the righteous." Yusuf listened, and before he spoke of dreams, he spoke of the truth. He spoke of Allah, of Tawheed, of the one true God who gives all power, and to whom all dreams return. Then he gave them the meanings. To one he said, "You will serve wine to the king." And to the other, "You will be crucified, and birds will eat from your head." And he told the one who would survive, "When you return to your master, mention me to him." But when the man was freed, he forgot, and Yusuf remained in prison, year after year, unseen, unheard, unknown, but not forgotten by Allah, because the time was coming. The dream that would shake Egypt was on its way. And soon, only one man would be able to explain it. Years had passed. Yusuf was still in prison. But beyond the stone walls, a dream began to shake a kingdom. The king of Egypt had seen something strange. A vision in his sleep. He saw 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 thin ones. He saw 7 green stalks of grain and 7 dry ones. He awoke disturbed, and he called all his advisors. "Interpret this dream for me, if you are truly wise." But they failed. They said, "These are confused dreams. We don't know what they mean." Then, one voice spoke up. It was the man who once shared Yusuf's prison, the one who had promised to remember him, but had forgotten. Now he remembered. He said, "I will inform you of its interpretation. Just send me to Yusuf." And just like that, the door opened again. The call reached the prison, and Yusuf was brought forward, not as a criminal, but as a man with answers, a man of Allah, a man of truth. He listened to the dream, and he said, "You will have 7 years of good harvest, then 7 years of hardship. But if you store wisely during the good years, you will survive the bad." The king was amazed, not just by the interpretation, but by Yusuf's wisdom, his presence, his calm. He wanted him released immediately, but Yusuf refused. He said, "I will not leave this prison until my innocence is proven." And so, the case was reopened. Zuleika herself confessed. She said, "Now the truth has come to light. I tried to seduce him, and he was truthful." And finally, Yusuf's name was cleared. He was free, but not just free. He was chosen, because when truth is patient, it always rises. And when Allah decides, no one can stop his plan. From the darkness of a well to the silence of a prison, Yusuf was now standing before a king. And the king saw something greater than just a dream interpreter. He saw wisdom, integrity, and leadership. The king said, "Bring him to me. I want him close." And when Yusuf stood in the court, he didn't just answer a dream. He offered a solution. He said, "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land. I am trustworthy and knowledgeable." It wasn't pride. It was purpose. Because Yusuf knew what was coming. 7 years of harvest, then 7 years of famine. And Egypt was not ready. The king agreed. He gave Yusuf the position, the keys, the power. And just like that, Yusuf became the minister of finance, in control of food, planning, and preservation. The boy who was betrayed now saved an empire. And as the years passed, his plan worked. Egypt thrived during the good years. And when the famine came, people from surrounding lands came in desperation. They came for food. They came to Yusuf. And among them were 10 men, tired, dust-covered, hungry. They bowed before the Egyptian minister, not realizing who he truly was. It was his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. The one they had thrown into the well now stood before them, not in chains, but in command. Yusuf saw them, but he said nothing yet, because the time for truth was not yet come. They stood before him, the very brothers who threw him into a well. But Yusuf said nothing. He hid his identity, and he began to test them. He asked, "Where are you from?" They answered, "We are 12 brothers. The youngest is with our father, and one of us is gone." Yusuf listened, and remembered everything, but he remained silent. He ordered their camels to be filled with grain, and just as they turned to leave, he said, "Next time, bring your youngest brother." They hesitated, but he insisted, and to ensure they would return, he secretly placed their silver back in their bags, so that when they opened them at home, they would have a reason to come back. And they did. They returned to their father Yaqub, and when they told him what happened, he was afraid. He said, "Shall I trust you with him, as I trusted you with Yusuf before?" But eventually, he let go. He allowed Benjamin, Yusuf's full brother, to go with them. And when they came back to Egypt, Yusuf saw his brother, his only full brother, His heart softened. He pulled him close, and he whispered, "I am your brother. Don't be sad over what they've done." But the test wasn't over, because Yusuf was not only reuniting, he was restoring. He devised a plan. He placed the king's cup in Benjamin's bag, and when the guards checked the caravans, they found it. They said, "Benjamin has stolen." The brothers were shocked. They begged, but Yusuf said, "He must stay." And just like that, Yusuf kept his brother with him, the same way they had once taken him, but this time, not to punish, to protect.